My name is Alyson. I'm a teenager. Today is July 23rd, and I'm speaking with Lily, who is my former teacher. I'm recording this interview in a Zoom call from each of our homes in the South.
My name is Lily, and I'm in my 30s. From the comforts of my home, my bed, on a Zoom call.
Is there anything that you've never told me or anyone about this experience, or just anything in general that you wish to tell now?
Okay, so yes, there is something that I've never told. Let's see, I've told one student about my experience related to making the choice, choosing abortion. Here I am. Yes, I have had 3 abortions.
I'm not. Yeah, I thought I had everything planned out.
I know. I
Um,
know. Okay, I mute my mic, and you could figure out where you want to go.
okay. So when do you feel comfortable sharing the cause for abortions, or you could keep that confidential, or anything like that?
Okay, so I will totally tell you. This is really a weird experience because I'm smiling because I know that I'm telling someone that I care about. I will tell you a little bit about this experience. So I had 3 abortions within 9 months. I let's say this was about 5 years ago. I was teaching and I had not been dating. I had taken a break from dating anybody. Resigned from the school system that I was working for, and a breakup. I took about a year off from that and for the reason of an emotional breakup. So after a year, I moved on from the school system, this emotional breakup, and me leaving the school system that I was teaching in. I had gotten a new job. I decided, I'm ready to start dating again. So where do I go? But the internet. So the very first person that I met online, the very first date, in other words, that with a guy that I met online, I actually wound up pregnant. Being raised the way I was, I didn't even know, I don't even know how to put this into words. I did not, let me say this. Before finding out that test that I was pregnant, before finding that out, I can't tell you that I was pro-choice. I'm not sure if I was. I like to think I was, but really, it wasn't. I never had to think about it. It didn't affect me. I was raised in a really, really conservative religious home. Abortion is not an option. Was not a virgin, so I did not expect. I mean, and I was on birth control, so I did not expect that to happen. So being here in the South, there's not many options in terms of clinics. So when I figured out that I was pregnant, I didn't even know. I had no idea that there was an option. I didn't even know there was a clinic in around the area that I live in. And so I'll never forget that day, the person that I was seeing, I'm going to call him Nick. Okay, so when Nick got home from work that day, I actually went to the Dollar General and bought a pregnancy test and took it while he was away at work, and it was positive, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, how?" And so I took it, and I just like, obviously you take it when you're in the bathroom. So the dryer was nearby, and I just tossed it in the dryer. I was like, "Oh," it was just a reflex. And so I sat it in there, and I went and sat on the couch knowing he was on the way home. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm about to tell this stranger that I'm pregnant. And so he walks to the door, and over, a few minutes time, he could tell I'm just really nervous about something. So I just got up from the couch, went and got it out of the dryer, and I just laid it down on his lap. And I just stared at him. Now, backing up a little bit, he is a high school dropout. He is probably the most brilliant person that I've ever met. And I'm serious when I say that. As a teacher, I'm a believer in education. I'm a believer in public education. And so I don't, I don't say this lightly, but he is one. of the few people that I can say the education system failed him. Where he was raised, where he went to school, it was a very racist and bigoted part of our state, and his high school counselor actually told him to that he should just quit school. He was the son of 2 addicts, 2 alcoholics, and his grandmother helped out around their house, and his high school counselor, Nick, was just not great at school, and his high school counselor just told him to quit, and so what does he do? He quits, and years later, he is working his tail off, and he's gotten his GED, and he's, doing that human rat race that you do, working to get a paycheck, and so I'm saying all that to say he was an he is a sober addict. He's an alcoholic who had been sober at that time for 5 years. In his mind, kids weren't an option for him. He did not want to have any more of him on this on earth. He it took life was hard for him. So when he looked up at me, he said, I've got to call my boss. And his boss, the reason he said that at the time, she had kids, and she had recently had an abortion just within a couple of months because it was just too soon after her last child. He said, I've got to call her. He said, I know what we can do. I know where we can go. So it was like, there was no question. I mean, nobody in my world, it wasn't, I don't, like, I didn't even question it. I didn't even think about it. It was like a no-brainer. We didn't know each other. We were strangers, and so that happened. We did that. We went through that. I actually went the route of oral medication, that time. So what that means is what we don't have enough education on, or what we don't talk about enough is, when you are pregnant just like anybody else that's been pregnant. So when the people that choose abortion, your body is still has to recover from pregnancies. And with oral medication, your body is put into basically into labor, and you go through the process at home, and it's very, very painful, with no anesthesia. So just all those pains and things like that. So he was the best partner ever, ever that anybody could ask for. He was the best partner. He did have to work. I mean, I was technically unemployed at the time, so, we had to pay for it. It was $500, and I don't know how we did it, to be honest, but we pulled it off. He worked. We got that handled, and, you know, something that the online dating gets you can't algorithm culture and background, deep culture, but you the science of people's interest in things, I mean, man, those that the online dating, it matched us very well. We were very interested in the same things, and saying that, the physical attraction to each other didn't stop, and we had never been through that situation, and never had any kind of sex education. We had no idea. This is just 5 years ago. We had no idea. We weren't careful. Right after that, so we feel like we got pregnant right after that first abortion. So, a few months had passed by then, and actually, I was pregnant longer without realizing at that time, but our relationship by then, we were just a couple of months in, and things weren't easy. We had just been through a traumatic decision as strangers, so I'm not really sure that looking back now, I'm at pe if you'd asked me right then, I would have been like, "Oh, it was a horrible relationship," but, I mean, we were struggling. I wouldn't say that we were still together for sure, but we I wound up pregnant, and ultimately, by then, I just was I don't know, I I kicking myself really because I was like, "We're not even getting a chance to learn each other. We're not even, like, this is awful. And so I was hesitant emotionally. I didn't have a lot of guilt after I didn't experience like feelings of guilt because it just there was no question, but there was a sense of what if and things like that. And I didn't have anybody to talk to. So I was afraid of losing him at that point because I did not have anybody in my world that I could share this with. So we were on unstable we just weren't on steady ground. Ultimately, I really we went in to have a second abortion, and I'll be honest now and say that I probably was thinking that it was going to save our relationship at the time. Like, I was probably more or less making that decision to save the relationship. So, I'm pausing here with banana real quick because the last story is, like, a weird one. Not weird, it's the emotional side of it, but I didn't know if you needed a break because this is a lot. This is a
Okay,
lot.
no, I do have a few quick questions. Do you have any regrets? I know you mentioned that you felt like that your partner was the only person there for you in your world. So, do you feel like had you had somebody else on your side or in your world that it could have affected the decisions you made?
So it's interesting you asked that. Do I have any regrets? I I don't have regret for maybe those first 2, those the choice I made or the decisions that were made. I don't necessarily regret that. I do regret so much being so unaware and just maybe closed-minded in the sense that I didn't even I just didn't expect it. I wasn't prepared. Like, my biggest regret is really just being so unaware of the importance of bodily autonomy, really.
So do you think that since you were like you wanted to be more educated on that, that's why you help so many people today and why you're so passionate for the movement?
So, I would definitely say that, my experience has made me more passionate because it's made me I'm educated in that respect now. It changed me. It changed me. Even to this day, my family doesn't know. More or less for I would say what I think is, and this is not what a counselor or therapist agrees with. It's a matter of fact, the people of mine say that this is not the way to do it, but more or less they don't know because I don't. That's in my past, and I know that to a certain degree, like my mother, for example, there would be so much guilt on she would have that she would place it's a codependency almost, that she would place on herself from that, but also just, a worry, I think that well, and others in my family, I think they would absolutely worry about my soul from a religious perspective, but, it it the whole experience, that whole relationship absolutely changed me, and it's absolutely what has made me so incredibly passionate about this matter. There's so much there to unpack, and I can if you want me to, but yes, this has definitely made me more aware and definitely caused me to step up and speak out. Not necessarily, this is the first time I'm sharing my story publicly, but to speak out or take space to let others that need the space have it, because the space has been taken for too long by those who are bigots standing in parking lots, with baby dolls and posters that say murderer, you know?
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing your just feelings and stuff. I feel very honored to be trusted with this. I did hear how you mentioned that there's a lot more you can unfold. I could be here all night, honestly. Anybody who's listening, know that there are people that are just there for you that have that sympathize with you, that love and care and trust for you, and there's always somebody that's there to listen, and you can be there for somebody too, to understand and listen, and just to be a person that you never had. So
Yes.
whatever pace you want to go to, we can go back to finishing the whole story, or we could talk about something else, whatever you're comfortable with.
I am totally